All right, we are live. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a nice Saturday so far. So good to be here after being away last week for yet another camping trip. Adam and I had such a great time camping this summer. Pretty certain the camping season is finished, but I'll keep you guys updated in case there's any last minute trips. But I don't know about you guys, but here in Colorado, even though it's not technically fall yet, it is certainly beginning to feel like fall and look like fall, which I enjoy. I love the fall season. So, but great to be back. And if you guys can let me know in the chat that you can see me, hear me, everything's coming through okay, and we will go ahead and get started on today's episode. Womansplaining and Unspoken Epidemic. That's what we are getting into today. But as always, before we get into that topic, just a couple reminders. If you haven't had the chance to check out my colleague's YouTube channel, Josie, the autoimmune expert, you want to go to her YouTube channel. She has an incredible perspective on permanently healing autoimmune disorders and chronic illnesses by working on the emotional state. So if you or someone you know suffers from an autoimmune disease like hypothyroidism or fibromyalgia or rheumatoid arthritis or chronic fatigue syndrome, Josie has incredible answers and solutions. She herself healed herself permanently from 8 autoimmune diseases, and she also helps people with chronic illnesses such as ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression, chronic pain. So you want to be sure to go check her channel out. Consider subscribing. She did a great video yesterday on perfectionism and the link between perfectionism and autoimmune diseases. So please go give her channel a look. And then also, if you enjoy listening to the Saturday show in podcast format, please go follow the Happy Wife School on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Yeah, Apple Podcast. And if you feel drawn to, I would appreciate a rating there as well, because that helps people find the podcast. And it's always fun for me when I get a call from someone who found me on Spotify or Apple and they don't even know about my YouTube channel. So just trying to grow the message, and that's a great place. Still working on the book. Today's topic is not a chapter of the book like I've done the last 2 live episodes, but it is still in progress. So I will keep you guys updated as I continue moving forward with the book on sex for married women. So I'm going to check the chat real quick, and then we will get into the topic. Phil is here. Steve, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing such a wonderful job moderating and keeping the chat a constructive place to be and kicking out the trolls and haters. Thank you, C. Irving, for asking for the likes to go up. If you're watching, please consider giving it a like. And thank you, Phil. I see you're loud and clear. So good to know I'm coming through. Nice to see you, Luke. Happy that you made it. I think I also saw Stephanie. Stephanie Cosgrove, nice to see you here. One of the lovely, lovely women that supports the channel, and so great to have you back. And the audio is a bit scratchy. Well, not sure what to do about that in the moment, but I'll take a look at it. I've been trying to work with the sound a little bit based on some comments. So we're going to get it all worked out. I'm in a newer office, so we're getting the tech set up here, and it's taken a little longer than I ever would have imagined. So thank you for that comment. All right, guys, we're going to get started. Yeah. All right, just reading through the comments a little bit. All right, so glad you guys are here. Getting into womansplaining and unspoken epidemic. And the reason I want to talk about this, kind of in a joking way, but not so joking, is that the recent story of Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, and her being on the field with him at his first UNC game. And then also stories of her being at the practices and helping him to coach in practices is a wonderful example of womansplaining. Here we have a future Hall of Fame coach who has won 6 Super Bowls and is widely considered to be one of the greatest football coaches of all time. And his girlfriend is on the field with him, telling him how he should coach and helping with the coaching. So in all seriousness, that's a great example of womansplaining. But the reason I want to talk about this today is because we recently titled a short and used the term womansplaining in it. And I had, as I share with you guys, had a awakening moment of myself and my own womansplaining tendencies in my marriage, and realized we need to talk about this, and we need a full episode on womansplaining. So that's the real reason that we're doing the episode. But I also saw that story on Bill Belichick and his girlfriend Jordan Hudson and thought, hey, yeah, this is a good topic to do. So that's why we're talking about it, and talking about womansplaining today. We're doing this in the context of a marriage. So I know this happens in the workplace and other contexts and areas of life, but today we're really focusing on the context of a woman being married to a good man and constantly womansplaining him in the marriage. And the reason, well, let me go here first. A really, really good way to describe and understand womansplaining is something I've talked about of as women, we see ourselves in a marriage as Mrs. Always Right, and our husbands as Mr. Always Wrong. We see ourselves as Mrs. Always Right, and our husbands as Mr. Always Wrong. And it is a pervasive undercurrent of a marriage between a woman and a good man. And it is a pervasive behavior pattern that we have as women. And the reason that womansplaining is so pervasive is our deep need to be right. It's almost a compulsion for us to womansplain a good man because of our compulsion to always need to be right. What's fascinating about us as women, and for the women listening, I'd like to give this reminder. The purpose of my content is to help wake women up, just like I have been woken up and continue to be woken up to our destructive patterns in relationships and marriages with good men. Because we have all the control for a marriage to go really, really well with a good man or really, really poorly. And so this is an opportunity for the women who do listen and are listening to shine the light on the hidden pockets of behavior patterns that we suppress and hide from as women so that we can see them. 90% of change happens from a deep self-awareness of our own behaviors and taking accountability for those behaviors, that they haven't happened to us. It's not because of our mothers. It's not because of our fathers. It's not because of past circumstances or experiences. They are patterns we have created in ourselves that we have, which is very empowering, because when we take accountability of this is me, in this case, I am a womansplainer. Hi, my name's Karen, and I am a womansplainer. When we can take accountability for these behaviors, that self-awareness and bringing it up to the surface and looking at it is 90% of the change. Because that first, seeing it and knowing that it's you and then taking accountability for the behavior is how we change. It's how we can catch ourselves and follow through to make the changes in these behaviors. So as I go through this, for the women listening, the purpose isn't to look at all the ways you think this isn't you and it's your husband or men. The purpose is to look, how is this me? How do I know myself as this? So that you can make changes and you can can have a healthy, happy relationship with your husband. So just had to give that reminder. So as I'm talking through this and teaching about this concept and looking at all the nooks and crannies of how we womansplain, it's really important for the women listening to see this in yourself. And for the good men listening, the purpose is to see how this is happening in your marriage so you can see the hidden and unknown ways in which you give your power away to your wife that weakens you and causes you to be so unhappy in your relationship because you've unknowingly given your power away to your wife. When you can see this and what she's doing and what's going on underneath it, you can remove yourself from it so it no longer has that impact and effect on you of how emasculating and gaslighting this concept of womansplaining is. So coming back to the root of where this behavior comes from in us as women, the womansplaining, is that our deep compulsion to be right. And the fascinating part about our compulsion as women to be right is that, and I had to see this about myself, is that we really, really, really believe that we are right. We really, really, really believe that we are right, that we are wrong on nothing. It's almost like we are walking encyclopedias of all things life, all things human nature, a walking encyclopedia on how to do anything and everything in life, and that we are all knowing on everything. And the unspoken part is, despite all the evidence to the contrary, we truly, truly believe that we are right. And it's not even in an egotistical way. It's not even in a way of having a big ego, that it's just a fact that I can't help it that I'm always right. And we really believe that. And again, the women listening, you have to be honest about that in yourself. That's how we begin to see it and go, oh my goodness, this is me. And then we can catch ourselves and we can change. So the lens of womansplaining, or the lens we create that causes us to constantly womansplain our good men, is we see our husbands through the lens and our compulsion and need to be right. We see them through the lens of them being dunces, essentially. Unintelligent, incapable, just simple-minded beings that need to be taken care of and told what to do and how life works. And that's the lens that we create. Also along woman and also in womansplaining, we are very, very dismissive. So how that looks is, while our husbands might be sharing about their day, sharing about their opinion on something happening in the world or in our country, or an opinion on anything or a perspective on anything, is that we aren't even listening to what they're saying. We are in total defense mode, thinking of what we know is right and how we are going to school our husbands on how they are wrong once they stop talking. And it's, again, so pervasive and so ingrained in the way we operate with a man that it's not been teased out. And that's part of why I want to talk about it, is to tease it out. The backdrop of womansplaining and through our lens is that men are incapable of making decisions, of having opinions or perspectives of their own without a woman's directives. And we operate from a place of, let me tell you how to do this right. Let me tell you how you need to make this choice or what choice you should be making. Let me tell you how to think, how to look at life the right way, how to feel the right way, how to act, how to behave, how to socialize the right way. And it's all done in a condescending way that can sometimes seem apparently kind or helpful, but is meant to be condescending and an expression of our total superiority, that we believe we are better than, know better than, and put ourselves on a pedestal, again, of kind of these all-knowing beings. And it's become so acceptable in our culture of how women treat men that it can go almost undetected. We do see it a lot in commercials. As I was planning this out, I was talking about, I think, just some local commercials of a woman and or a couple needing a plumber, and her kind of pushing him out of the way, like, here, I'll do it. And don't remember the total context, but I know I see it in commercials all the time, and I know you guys too. Maybe you can share in the comments or the chat different commercials or shows where men are painted as complete dunces and women know everything. The key thing to know is that it is a pervasive emasculation technique, a weakening of a man, and it is at the core of every marriage with a good man. To make men dunces, unintelligent, dummies, slow to learn, foolish, and ignorant. The language of womansplaining, and as a woman listening, you want to pay attention to how often you say or begin a statement to your husband with one of these phrases. And for the good men listening, how often you hear one of these phrases from your wife. Why would you do that? What were you thinking? Here, I'll do it. Or just let me do it. Get out of the way. That's not how you do that. Or that's not how we do it in the house. That's not the right way. Or if you're a good man and you're sharing a memory or something that happened, no, that's not the way it happened. You're not remembering it correctly. You don't know what you're talking about. Let me explain. Or we might, before we go into womansplaining, start a statement with, I don't mean to be bossy, but, or I don't mean to tell you what to do, but, or I don't mean to tell you how to think, but I'm not trying to make you wrong, but I'm not trying to dismiss your feelings, but I'm not just trying to disregard what you're saying, but, and that is the language of womansplaining. If you hear that language from your wife, you can know what's coming. And again, for the women listening, when you say that, that could be a clue to catch yourself and zip it. So for the women listening who are thinking, my husband mansplains me, which is the opposite term of womansplain, or even if you're a good man and you're thinking, well, I think I mansplain. I learned about mansplaining and I see that I do that quite a bit. I want to give the difference that mansplaining is a derogatory term of a man seeing a woman as incompetent and trying to educate her on how to do something or a different perspective, and it's perceived to be done in a condescending way. However, mansplaining in the context of a marriage with a woman and a good man, he's not mansplaining. There's no condescending or patronizing intent of a good man giving a different perspective or giving his opinion or offering another way to do something. A good man's intention is to be helpful and constructive, and he's genuine, and he's trying to be supportive. Whereas our intention as a woman, if we're honest with ourselves, is to be condescending and patronizing. And maybe with the facade, the mask of being genuine and helpful or kind and trying to be supportive and constructive. But we're not. We're coming from a place where it's a form of control. It's a form of the need to be right. And a form of expressing our superiority of how we think we're better than, we think better than, we know better than. And it's a very, very destructive pattern. That's why some good men I have talked to struggle to understand what mansplaining is. That they've heard the term, and maybe their wife or someone else in their life has accused them of mansplaining, and they literally can't understand the concept. They don't understand it because they're not doing it. They're in their nature just being genuine and helpful. That's the nature of a good man. And researching this topic, I found some fascinating feminist articles. Of one of my favorite title was Womansplaining. Not a thing, never has been, never will be. And what a delusional take that is. The reason that women have come up with this term mansplaining is a projection. It's a projection of our own behavior because it is so pervasive in how we operate in the world. For sure in a marriage, and absolutely in other aspects of our lives. And projecting, putting our own behavior and putting it onto men is a way to avoid accountability and avoid having to expose and see ourselves in our own destructive behaviors. That's why I like to teach about the phrase of, if you spot it, you got it. And what I mean by that, because sometimes that can be confusing, is when you see something in another, like a woman seeing a man as being mansplaining, and she is upset, triggered, emotionally charged by it, and essentially a victim to it, the reason we see that is because that's us. And we don't want to know that that is us. But we are so sensitive as women. We are so sensitive and so fragile that we cannot take constructive perspectives on how to do things or other ways of thinking, which is why we get so upset and so triggered when we think a man is being condescending to us or telling us how to do something and are so offended by it. It is a projection of who we are and how we operate in the world to exert our rightness. So where I would like to go next are 10 examples of womansplaining in a marriage. 10 examples of womansplaining in a marriage. Womansplaining is another form of gaslighting that causes a man to doubt his own capabilities and basic competency as a man. And it is at the root of every marriage between a woman and a good man. Despite the fact that he goes to work every day, can be highly successful, work at a high level of competency at work, and is able to excel. And then he comes home to his wife and he is treated like a dum-dum. Not too long ago, I was talking to a highly successful and highly, highly intelligent doctor who is so frustrated and so at his wit's end that he's out in the world as a doctor doing incredible things, writing in incredible papers and studies and research at the top of the top. And yet he comes home every single day to all the things he's done wrong, all the things he's not doing right, what he needs to be doing with his life, what he needs to be doing with his practice, how he needs to change things. And this is what men are dealing with day in and day out with women. And so the purpose, again, of this list is for good men to see how this operates in your marriage, and for women to see these examples so you can catch yourself and change. This is a red pill moment, seeing the truth of our nature and how we operate in relationships that is completely destructive. So 10 examples of womansplaining in a marriage. At the end, I'm going to ask you to give me all the ones I missed, because I missed a ton. But we have 10 here that are really good ones, and I'm sure we could have come up with another list of 10 and another list of 10 and so on and so forth. So help me out in the comments and in the chat. So the first example of womansplaining in a marriage, a woman telling her husband how he is parenting incorrectly and the right way to parent their children. I often talk about men are natural at parenting. They're natural at parenting. But as women, we think we are right and there's a correct way, and we are constantly inserting our opinions and perspectives on how our husband should be parenting and trying to school them on what their children need and how he needs to parent, and he doesn't know what he's doing. Second example of womansplaining in a marriage, I like this one, is when you go out with a couple and your wife is constantly contradicting your perspective or memory. So you might be sharing a story of something that happened on vacation, or sharing the story of how you got engaged. And your wife jumps in to say, you don't remember correctly, let me tell the story. Or that's not what happened, it happened this way. Or you're confusing this time with that vacation. And we will tell you how your memory is wrong, and then womansplain the correct memory of what happened. Number 3, the third example of womansplaining in a marriage is how we will find fault and correct you and how to do a man's activity. So when a good man in a marriage is doing a man's activity around the house, like maybe building a fence or laying tile in a bathroom or hanging pictures, that their wives will find only fault in their good-natured effort in completing the project, or he gets done with the project and he's excited to show her. And we'll interject, well, if I had done it, I would have done X, Y, and Z, or I would have done it this way, or did you consider this part and maybe redoing this, because here's why this isn't going to work. And again, in a very condescending and patronizing tone. The fourth example of womansplaining in a marriage, our inability to talk about politics as women and have healthy disagreements. I hear from good men all the time, I can't talk about anything political that my wife doesn't agree with. I don't mind healthy debate. I don't care that we disagree. But if we try to talk about anything, I get the silent treatment. She gets really upset. We get in an argument because we believe our political views are right and yours are wrong, and we are going to tell you how they are wrong and why we are right and how you should be thinking and viewing the world. Another example of womansplaining in a marriage is inputting our opinion and perspectives on how finances and a budget should work. And I laugh a little bit with that because we really are not very good at budgeting and finances as women in general. We like to spend money and what's the word that I want to use? Like finagle the budget to get what we want and spend what we think we can spend. And so we will womansplain our husbands on how their ideas of financing or saving or having a budget are wrong and why and how it actually works. And again, insert our opinion and perspective. The sixth example of womansplaining in a marriage, it's a big one. Telling our husbands that how they are feeling is wrong. Our husbands might share how they're feeling about a challenge at work, or how they're feeling about a challenge with their family or their parents. And we will tell them why they should not feel that way, the correct way to feel, and why they should feel differently. The seventh example of womansplaining in a marriage, we will tell you how to operate in the kitchen. Tell you how you need to cut the vegetables, dice the vegetables, how to saute, how to grill, and dissect your cooking technique and tell you the correct way to do things in the kitchen. The eighth example of womansplaining in a marriage, telling you what and how you should be eating and schooling you on nutrition and what's healthy and what's unhealthy. Last weekend, when Adam and I were camping, we were in Buena Vista, Colorado, which is one of our favorite mountain towns here. And Buena Vista has a lot of different hot springs in the area. And we went to the hot springs last Sunday, and there was a woman in one of the pools. She was talking to one other woman, but she might as well have been talking to like all 7 people in the pool about nutrition and gut health and what it takes to have a healthy hormonal balance, and just womansplaining the heck out of the people within earshot of what healthy nutrition is and how everyone should be eating. It was kind of funny until it wasn't, and I got up and moved. So, the ninth example of womansplaining in a marriage, how a woman explaining to her husband how he should be working on himself in terms of personal growth and goals and self-development, and what kind of therapy he should be doing, what books he should be reading, how he should be working on himself. I was very, very, very guilty of that with my husband. But that's a big, big way that we will womansplain our husbands. And the 10th example of womansplaining in a marriage is going to the gym together and then telling you how you're using a machine wrong or the equipment wrong, and demonstrating it to you of how you should actually be lifting, or how you should be doing your squats, or how you should be doing your leg lifts. I can't tell you the amount of times at the gym I have seen a woman come up to her husband, usually usually older couples, but she'll come over, and the worst I ever saw, she's like, you're doing it all wrong. Here, let me show you, and here's how you need to use this machine, and this is why. And bless the man, he just kind of stepped aside and let her roll all over him. So those are the 10 examples of womansplaining in a marriage. As I mentioned earlier in starting the list, please let me know which ones I missed in the comments or the chat. I thought another one, kind of a bonus one, telling you what you should be doing with your time, what's constructive, what's not constructive with your time. I'd imagine a lot of my audience being Christians, you might have your wife womansplain the Bible to you and the correct way to interpret the Bible. But I know I missed a lot, so let me know the ones you experience in your marriage. And for the women who are brave and vulnerable, how you womansplain your husband and different examples you have in your own marriage and relationship. So where I'd like to go next, as always, is the solution after I take a quick sip of water. So the solution for women. You have to understand, again, I mentioned this earlier in the video, that the purpose of my content, I say this a bit, but it's not to make us wrong or bad as women. is to wake us up to these destructive behaviors we have that keep us trapped and stuck in having unhealthy marriages and unhealthy relationships with good men. That's why I call this the red pill for women. It's taking the red pill, because once we can shine the light on these behaviors, we can actually change. We shine the light on them when we take accountability of, oh my gosh, this is me. That opens the pathway to be able to catch ourselves and actually follow through and change. So we have to recognize that womansplaining, jumping in and offering our perspective, our insight on how to do something in a condescending manner to our husbands, it's a projection. It's a projection of our own insecurities and our own incompetencies within ourselves that comes from a complete compulsion to be right. When you are truly secure and confident and grounded in your perspectives, in your ways of doing things, and how you make choices, or the choices you make, even though you know you'll make some mistakes, but when you're grounded and confident in yourself, you can actually appreciate and see other people have other ways of doing things, and that you're not always right, and that that's okay. Our compulsion to defend ourselves and our views and our perspectives is stemming from our own insecurities of how we feel about ourselves internally. And that's why the path that I teach women is the path to learn to be happy in yourself, which again, I define as having a healthy relationship with yourself, feeling good about who you are, having integrity and character, and living in what I talk about, can't take responsibility versus can't victim, blaming others for how we feel and our own insecurities. That's why the opposite of womansplaining, mansplaining, is a projection onto men and comes from living in can't victim of what we feel men are doing to us that is limiting our experiences as women, so we don't have to take accountability that we're limiting our own experience. And interestingly, women who accuse men of mansplaining view men as, oh, they just have to stroke their egos get bruised too easily, they're so insecure that they have to tell their perspective and how to do things, and they're just so insecure in themselves that that's how they feel like a man is telling a woman how she should be doing things and being condescending to her. No, not saying some men don't do that, but certainly not good men. And the intention of a man sharing his perspective isn't to make us wrong. That's who we are as women, because we are so insecure. And we can't be wrong. So that's what we project onto men. So for women who are ready and interested and want to change and build a healthy relationship with themselves so that they can be happy and catch themselves in these behaviors and have a healthy marriage, that's what my happiness course for women is all about. And you can find the link in the description below to learn more about it and to apply. For the men listening, and the solution for men who are struggling with womansplaining in their marriage, you have to know that because women are so masterful, we are so masterful and so astute at womansplaining, that as a good man, you believe she is right all the time. So you have to break the spell that she's put over you that she is right all the time. And men will even say most of the time she is right and I'm wrong. And they really, really believe that. That's how masterful we are at the gaslighting that comes along with womansplaining. And it very much is like a spell that we put over men in our marriage. So to break the spell, I'm going to give you some context that my mentor shared with me of how he broke the spell in his marriage. Is you have to realize that your wife can't be right all the time. It's impossible. And how he broke out of it was to realize that's why we have judges. When it comes to the law, that's why we have judges. to hear the different arguments and judge based on the arguments who is in the right and who is in the wrong. That's why we have judges. So even though your wife always seems right, you have to know there are always two sides. There's always two positions. There's always different perspectives. That your wife is not the judge and she is not always right. It's impossible. And it's a good way to look at the spell we put over good men with our woman ways, is it really is like a spell and a brainwashing that happens, which is why good men have to break out of it to reclaim their sense of self and reclaim their confidence and strength. And that's why we have our marriage rescue course for good men only, to help you break out of the gaslighting and manipulation and emasculation that's occurred in your marriage, so you can reclaim your sense of self, reclaim your confidence and strength, so you are not giving your power away to your wife, that she is always right. And again, you can find the description below with a link to learn more about the course and apply. And that's a wrap for today, at least with the content. I'll take a look at the chat and questions that I know Phil is going to send my way. But please consider subscribing if you're not already. Give the video a like so it reaches more people. And thank you guys so much for being here with me today. I hope this was a helpful, insightful topic. And I look forward to reading through some of the comments and answering some questions. So let me hop over back to the chat here. Oh, thank you so much. The Davis 54, thank you. First time in the chat. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your generosity and for being here. And James Morris, thank you. The advice you offer for free is priceless. Thanks. You're very, very welcome, and I appreciate your contribution to the channel. And then coming back over here, let's see. All right. Oh, thank you, Colorado Wildflowers. It was a great show. So, let's see. Sean, you're welcome. Kamran Pasha 72, great episode. Karen, thank you. You're very welcome. Phil sent over a couple comments. Let's see. Oh, good, Monica. This was once again eye-opening and enlightening. Good for you. So these are the women. These are the women that I'm speaking to, who are open and want to see these things. And Monica, you should be really, really proud of yourself to take the tough pill and swallow it and shine the light on these behaviors and want to change and be here. That takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery, and good on you. And to all the women here. And a great comment, Luke. Be kind to yourself too, Monica. It is usually due to misunderstanding. That's an important aspect, Luke, and I'm glad you brought that up, is for the women who watch my content and take in my message, it's really, really important to accept yourself in these behaviors. And that's what I have to do. When this came up, I decided, I think yesterday morning, this was the topic I was going to do, and it was like a break inside of me of how much I can still do this in my marriage and shining the light on it. It was vulnerable, but through that process, the most important piece is self-acceptance, that this is part of the learning, and I can't change something until I see it. And our nature as women is to deny these behaviors and suppress them and stuff them. So when we bring them up to look at them and work on them, the key place you want to get to is an acceptance of, I often say, when I get to that place of acceptance after the vulnerability is, oh, well, and be proud of myself that I'm willing to grow in myself as a woman in these ways. And to also know that it's very likely, if you are open to my message and working on yourself as a woman with what I teach, I often say that our woman ways are on a spectrum. They're on a spectrum. And if you're listening and you're open and learning and growing from this, You're on the lower end of the spectrum of these woman ways. So you're not operating in them 24/7 in this awful, horrible human. They're patterns and behaviors we have as women that have gone undetected within ourselves, that once we can see them, we can change them. And you will find it's not the true nature of who we are. It's a protective mechanism in our woman ways that when we begin to let them go, we find our true nature, which is soft and feminine and lovely and kind and nurturing. And seeing and shining the light on these things is the pathway to that. So I often say be accepting of yourself. If we beat ourselves up about these things, we won't change. We'll just stay stuck and feel sorry for ourselves. So you let yourself feel the vulnerability when you see some of these things about yourself as a woman, and then just be really proud of yourself that you're willing to go there, because you're the exception. And so I hope that's helpful. And thank you for that comment, Luke, so I could talk to that. And yes, thank you so much to Phil and Steve, and how awesome you guys do, keeping the chat such a great place to be. I see Holly Austin is here. Nice to see your name pop up, Holly. She's another brave, courageous woman, learning and growing from the channel and seeing incredible changes in her marriage. So always happy to see you here. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go over to my email here. Thank you, Phil. Let's see, what do we got? Yeah. Oh yeah, great comment from Monica. Grateful I tuned in today. Thank you for the red pill moment. You are so welcome. So, and I think I read that comment. So I'm not seeing any questions today. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. But thank you guys so much for being here and being such a wonderful, wonderful audience. I look forward to being here next week and seeing you guys next Saturday. I hope you have a nice rest of your weekend and a good week. And thank you again